Hello there, welcome back to another Star Wars What If reaction. Today we're reacting to what if Anakin Skywalker was frozen in Carbonite until after Order 66, created by the Star Wars Galaxy. Be sure to check him out, the link's in the description, and I cannot wait to see what he's come up with this time, so let's jump right in.
Our story begins after about half of the Clone Wars have been completed, as Anakin Skywalker has been called away from a mission on Umbara.
Oh, Umbara, man, that arc was so good, but oh no, it's gonna be sad because it's probably not gonna change the story where Captain Rex and all that with Punk Krell. That was
strange
real sad.
Anakin didn't like it, but Palpatine decided this mission was far too dangerous to risk Anakin's life. So he made up an excuse as to why Anakin must return to Coruscant immediately. And so, Anakin returned to the Venator above the planet, boarded a transport with the usual pilot and clone security, but before the transport could take off, the entire Venator was attacked, and the hangar shook heavily. Inside of the transport, the security troopers told Anakin to stay here. They are still taking off as scheduled. But now the hangar was infiltrated with the ship of a bounty hunter, and the ship sprayed strong blasts throughout the hangar until Anakin's transport was hit. Anakin was thrown across this transport, hitting his head, going unconscious
Which bounty hunters,
immediately, as the rest of the crew in here died. These bounty hunters were hired by the survivors of the Separatist forces from Mon Cala.
Interesting.
As these rogue Separatists wanted to get back in Dooku's good graces by bringing in Anakin Skywalker. And after many long months of tracking him, they finally had a way to bring him in. The bounty hunter ship, led by Dengar, grabbed Skywalker and threw him into their ship, and he ordered the young Rodian hunter to put Skywalker into their carbon freezing chamber. But as the bounty hunter ship took off and entered hyperspace coordinates, a clone pilot got behind their ship, fired into the engines at the same time as the hyperspace jump was made. So as Anakin was put into carbon freezing, the bounty hunter ship took off into hyperspace, only to have its engines be cut out.
So what happens then?
And the ship spun through the middle of completely empty space, and the pull out of hyperspace quickly shut down the engines and everything else in the ship except for backup generators, as Dengar and the other bounty hunter would quickly die while the ship spun out of hyperspace.
Oh shit.
And in the middle of absolute nowhere in this galaxy, Anakin Skywalker was now stuck in a state of hibernation inside of carbon freezing.
Well, that's just great.
In a ship floating through space.
That's just fucking
great. And for
great.
months, Obi-Wan, Ahsoka, Padme would search everywhere for Anakin with no luck. It was as if he disappeared completely, and in the end, it was simply assumed that Anakin had to have died in battle, as there was no sign of him. A funeral was held, and Obi-Wan, Ahsoka, the rest of the Order, and Padme would all mourn for him, and eventually, Obi-Wan would be assigned to train Ahsoka to knighthood as the 212.
I wonder how this is going to change just Palpatine's perspective of everything.
The 501st came together, and they were forced to accept their friend was gone for good.
You know?
Palpatine as well would have to adjust by orchestrating a new way to
end Palpatine, I mean, this is kind of your fault, so
this war and take over the galaxy as Emperor. Years later, a band of pirates just floating through space were relaxing, partying, separating themselves from the galaxy as the Empire was hunting down pirate gangs.
Oh, okay, so we just skipped forward. So I'm assuming that after Anakin's death, everything went pretty much the same.
The leader of this very one was torn apart by the Empire. It was tough to thrive in this galaxy, so these pirates were just taking the party to space where no one could really bother them. And on this pirate cruiser, a Weequay pilot received a sudden faint signal.
Oh, don't tell me it's fucking Hondo Ohnaka.
Ship belonging to someone they once knew. It was Dengar's signal. It was faint, but the leader orchestrated the ship to find it, and within the hour, Dengar's ship was spotted floating silently.
Also, Hondo knows Anakin. He knows Anakin Skywalker, so this is going to be so interesting.
And so, the leader, Hondo Ohnaka himself, ordered that they board this ship at once, see their old friend, while also seeing if there are any valuables left behind. So Hondo and a few others boarded the ship, found the bodies of Dengar and a Rodian, with not much else of value. But one pirate called to Hondo, and Hondo walked over to see the carbon-frozen body of another old friend. Hondo gasped, then laughed, and said they've just made the discovery of a lifetime.
It is a discovery of a lifetime.
Skywalker, former Jedi. Hondo knew that bringing this to the Empire would lend him so much profit.
Whoa, Hondo, man. If you do this, you're a big dick, okay? I mean, you and Anakin know each other, and, you know,
But in his
Be
excitement,
nice of you to
Hondo accidentally
unfreeze
hit the
him.
button to unfreeze Skywalker.
Oh, great.
And the pirate fell to the floor as Anakin melted out of the carbon freezing, and he too fell to the floor, ears ringing, eyes blinded, with his last memory being him leaving Umbara. As Anakin felt around, trying to center himself in the Force.
By the way, I wonder, you don't age in Carbonite, do you? So he's still, you know, what, 19, 20 years old? 20 years old?
He called out, asking what was going on, and a recognizable voice triumphantly told Anakin that he has been rescued by the noble, heroic Hondo Ohnaka. Anakin shook his head, trying to wake up from this dream, but he soon came to realize all of this was real.
Yep.
Hondo said he was always coming, trying to rescue Anakin, trying to find him. And finally, Anakin was able to use his Force to just heal his senses. And he looked around, seeing Hondo and a few other pirates just staring at him in fear and in bewilderment. Anakin just asked where they were, and Hondo said they are in the middle of nowhere. And then the pirate said he heard rumors of Skywalker's death, but he, of course, never believed them. Anakin knew he needed to get out of here, figured out exactly what was going on. So he asked Hondo for a ride back to Coruscant, so he can speak with the Council at the Jedi Temple, as well as Chancellor Palpatine.
Yeah, they're kind of gone, and it's not Chancellor anymore, it's Emperor.
As Anakin said, his men were still fighting a battle on Umbara, and Hondo's eyes and mouth were about as wide open as they could go, as he realized just how long Anakin has been here.
A long
so
time.
Hondo invited Anakin aboard the ship, saying they have a lot to go over.
Yeah, they do.
And about 1 hour later, Anakin would be in complete disbelief. From what Hondo just told him, the Republic has been an empire for 5 years.
So he's been frozen for 6.5 years, about. Fucking hell. By the way, though, Obi-Wan is alive, and Padme might still be alive, unless Palpatine killed her, so...
The Jedi Order was wiped out for trying to overthrow the Chancellor, and Chancellor Palpatine was now Emperor Palpatine. Anakin just kept sipping more and more on the drink that Hondo gave him, and Hondo was sorting through old HoloNet broadcasts, news files from the past years, showing the burning temple, Palpatine's speech, and much more horror from this empire.
Fucking
and soon
hell.
enough, Anakin Skywalker said he was going to need a ship. Across the galaxy on Coruscant, Senator Padme Amidala was trying to get some sleep in her apartment. The last 6 years have not been kind to her, having to mourn the death of her missing husband, and then watching as the Republic she served turned into an empire. It was all terribly heartbreaking.
Yep, and then Anakin is just gonna show up on her doorstep.
And her morale was lower than ever before. Every day felt like a drag, as she was just trying to be a good senator for her people, despite the Empire stripping resources and enforcing heavy labor laws all around the galaxy.
Wow.
Palpatine from Naboo manipulated her and the rest of the planet, and now the people barely trusted her to be any better than him.
Bruh.
But as she closed her eyes tonight, R2-D2 chirped with curiosity as the living room window was swung open.
R2-D2.
Padme grabbed her blaster, held it forward, hands steady.
It's Anakin.
To relieve her stress through the years and anger at everything, Padme had spent countless hours training with the blaster and also learning Teras Kasi, a hand-to-hand fighting combat to fight Force sensitives.
That's cool.
Just in case. And so, when Padme spotted a hooded figure walking through her room, she shot at him, hitting him in the shoulder, then flipped forward to kick the man to the floor.
It's Anakin.
It was dark, but she pointed her blaster at the fallen enemy, demanding to know who he was. And Anakin Skywalker pulled down his hood, looked to his shoulder in disbelief, as he told Padme that she just shot him. And Padme immediately broke into tears, falling down, hugging Anakin before pulling away.
Here's the thing. Padme is 6 years older than Anakin, right? So when he was frozen into Carbonite, he was like about 20, right? And she was 26. She's 32 now, and he's still 20. Technically, he's still 20, because he was frozen, and he didn't age. That's crazy.
Demanding to know where he has been. Anakin pulled Padme back in, and he said he would explain everything. And the rest of the night would be spent with Anakin trying to explain what happened. And then, Padme explaining the state of the galaxy to Anakin.
Okay.
The Jedi Temple could be seen far in the distance, and it had Imperial flags draped over it, as Imperial Star Destroyers floated menacingly above the now Imperial Palace. Anakin felt as if he were in a nightmare that he would never wake up from, especially after learning the fate of his friends, Obi-Wan and Ahsoka. They were together when Order 66 came in. They survived, but the two of them confronted the Emperor with Yoda, and ultimately only Obi-Wan escaped with his life.
What?
Palpatine made...
No! How did Yoda die? And Ahsoka's dead? Oh, fuck. No, come on. I mean, Yoda stalemated Palpatine. Yoda and Obi-Wan would beat him. Yoda, Obi-Wan, Ahsoka didn't beat him? Fuck.
A deal with Maul, who was now an enforcer.
Oh. Oh, okay, that makes sense. So he made a deal with Maul. So Maul and Palpatine fought against Obi-Wan, Yoda, and Ahsoka. So Obi-Wan's probably preoccupied with Maul, which means that it was Ahsoka versus and Yoda versus Palpatine. Palpatine probably took out Ahsoka, and then how did Yoda die though?
In the Empire.
Fuck.
Maul gave up all of his crime organizations, allowing them to be raided and executed by the Empire, in exchange for a role as Sidious's apprentice once more.
He is such
and
a
Maul never looked
dick
back.
rider.
Anakin asked where Obi-Wan was now, and Padme said that after Ahsoka and Yoda were killed, Obi-Wan went off the grid. Rumors would sometimes pop up about a Jedi fighting somewhere, but they were nothing more than rumors. And Anakin knew
Anakin needs to find Obi-Wan.
Must go next. Wherever Obi-Wan was, he must be found and saved.
That's the thing. There is no Skywalker children. Because, you know, Padme obviously got pregnant a year and a half later after Anakin got frozen. So, no Skywalker children. So, is Obi-Wan on Tatooine now still? Or where the fuck is he?
From this dark path he seems to be sending down. So for weeks, Anakin would take on a sort of detective role, following any Imperial leads of Jedi activity and using his own knowledge of Obi-Wan's instincts, until he ended up on the planet Lannick.
Detective Skywalker.
Anakin perched himself atop a tall building on Lannick, observing the main city, and in his research, Anakin would learn that an Imperial weapons factory was going to be built in the center of the city, and the citizens were out here protesting this. As Anakin watched the peaceful protests, the Imperial security guards were getting antsy, and soon, one of the troopers beat on a citizen that got in his face, and the protest began to evolve into something much more aggressive. Citizens began attacking the Imperial security, as this was obviously something that was brewing for a long time. The Imperial ships descended to the ground, as Anakin overheard a new order coming from the Star Destroyer above the planet. The order was to kill any protesters, as they simply do not have time for this any longer.
Shit.
So as a pair of TIE fighters flew by Anakin with their weapon systems activated, Anakin knew it was time to act. He ignited his blade and jumped far through the air, landing on one of the TIEs, cutting through a wing, before using the Force to spin the other TIE around.
Fuck me, this is... And it's Anakin from the middle of the Clone Wars, so he's still, like, super powerful and all that, and, like, so skilled.
Them now crashed into each other. Anakin landed on the ground, force pushing a group of Imperial Death Troopers to the ground. He readied himself once more, then ran into battle, cutting down stormtroopers without much hesitation.
Oh my god.
As he could tell, these were not clones. They were people willingly serving the horrible Empire. Anakin cut his way through wave after wave of reinforcements, and through comm chatter, he heard that the troopers were supposed to go to a citizen relief center, where thousands of innocent people were hiding.
Oh, nice.
Anakin leapt across buildings, making his way over to help the people, and once more, Anakin was fighting off troopers. And as he fought his way through the masses, Anakin began to hear the faint sounds of a lightsaber. And so Anakin pushed away the final stormtroopers before running to take on whoever had this saber, only to find another Jedi like him defending the people here. Jedi Master Obi-Wan Kenobi cut through the final trooper, then turned and pointed his blade at Anakin, only for him to immediately recognize his former Padawan and best friend. Obi-Wan could only gasp Anakin's name, as Anakin smiled at him, saying he will explain everything soon. But first, they have a job to do. Both of them looked up to the Star Destroyer, and Obi-Wan nodded to Anakin, telling him he will follow his lead. Obi-Wan was partly in shock, but he was more so relieved. He never truly believed Anakin was actually gone, but he had no choice but to go with the funeral and everything else when Anakin disappeared. He'd moved on, but seeing Anakin now returned a light of hope into Obi-Wan's heart that he thought he was gone forever. Anakin told Obi-Wan to follow him, and together, the two of them would scale a building until they saw a pair of TIE fighters flying at the Citizen Center. Anakin asked Obi-Wan if he was ready with a smile, and Obi-Wan shook his head, telling Anakin he still hates flying, but he is ready. And together, Skywalker and Kenobi flipped through the air, perfectly landing on top of these separate TIE fighters, getting inside and throwing out the pilots. Obi-Wan and Anakin both had to quickly learn the controls in here. And Obi-Wan scraped across the building before flying up to meet Anakin, saying this was not going to be easy. And suddenly, they were staring down about a dozen TIE fighters, headed straight for them.
Fun.
Anakin called over to Kenobi, telling him that this is where the fun begins.
This is where the fun begins.
Force, along with their piloting skills, to weave around these ties, taking them out one by one. Anakin laughed, telling Obi-Wan he thought he hated flying, and Obi-Wan snarkily replied that he doesn't like it, but it doesn't mean he's bad at it.
Yeah,
and Obi-Wan spun between 2 missiles.
Fun fact, Obi-Wan was actually like one of the best pilots the Order had, which is cool, I guess.
But another pair of Imperial ships, with Anakin right behind him, blasting down more of them, as they reached space and took out the shields to board the Star Destroyer, which reading said was named Sovereign. The 2 Jedi ejected from their ships, moving through the halls, handling any and all resistance.
Okay.
Until finally they were able to reach the bridge.
So these fuckers are
Tarkin
taking...
was standing.
Oh!
Tarkin raised an eyebrow as they entered, saying that the Emperor will be quite pleased and surprised to see them again.
Okay,
especially
buddy.
Skywalker, after his apparent death so long ago. When the Jedi didn't respond, he said that must be where the Jedi are going, right? Take this ship to Coruscant. Take on the Emperor. Tarkin smiled, telling the Jedi they will never survive, and instead they will die the same way that young Ahsoka Tano died.
Okay.
At the Emperor's
Did
hand.
not have to say that.
And Obi-Wan lifted Tarkin up with the Force, choking him. Anakin told him to stop, but now Obi-Wan used a mind trick on Tarkin while he was vulnerable and desperate to survive.
Okay.
He told Tarkin to order his forces on here to stand down, as the enemy has been defeated, and they are returning to Coruscant.
Oh.
Tarkin did as he was told.
Oh.
And before long, the Star Destroyer took off back to
Damn
Coruscant,
kebab.
as the Jedi knocked out Tarkin and stood alone on the bridge. And on the entire trip back to Coruscant, Obi-Wan would describe what happened when the Jedi Order and the Republic fell. After 3 long years of the Clone Wars, Coruscant was attacked by Dooku and Grievous. This attack made the people of Coruscant see just how dangerous the war really was, as it was now on their doorstep. But in the attack, Mace Windu and Yoda killed both Dooku and Grievous.
Oh, damn.
Everything seemed to be good. Final battles were wrapping up, but the Jedi would soon learn the truth about Palpatine, that he is Darth Sidious. So while Yoda was on Kashyyyk, Obi-Wan and Ahsoka were with Plo Koon on Cato Nemoidia, and Windu would go with other council members to arrest Palpatine.
Okay.
And so, Palpatine ended up killing them, with Maul by his side,
Oh,
blaming
fuck.
the entire war on the Jedi, saying they worked with Dooku to gain power, and Order 66 was called out. Anakin listened to all of this. He couldn't believe he was just stuck in carbon freezing for all of it. And now, Obi-Wan described how he, Ahsoka, and Yoda returned to Coruscant after the 2 of them failed to save Plo from the clones.
Okay.
Obi-Wan said that he and Yoda wanted to take on Sidious alone, but Ahsoka naturally followed them without telling anyone. The duel began with the 2 Jedi fighting Sidious, only for Ahsoka to enter the Senate and immediately be stabbed by Darth Maul
Oh,
and
fuck.
electrocuted by Sidious, who was hiding in the shadows. This momentary distraction allowed Sidious to end up killing Yoda as well,
Bro.
and Obi-Wan had no choice other than to throw as many Senate pods as possible at Sidious, so he could barely escape the fight with his life. And ever since then, he has isolated himself, fighting for small groups or planets that need his help, until now his brother has found him. Anakin smiled sadly, heartbroken for Ahsoka and the rest of the Jedi, but knowing that
But
today,
Kenobi he's definitely more powerful now than Revenge of the Sith then. Most likely, yeah.
he and Obi-Wan
Definitely.
will make everything right. Anakin also learned today of the failed clone rebellion, as they only turned because of their inhibitor chips, and now any surviving clones were spread into the galaxy. It was terrible to see how Palpatine used literally everyone for his own gain.
Yep.
And now the Star Destroyer emerged above Coruscant, as Skywalker and Kenobi continued to influence Tarkin's mind, using him to get through the blockade. And then the 3 of them boarded Tarkin's shuttle. They flew it down to the Imperial Palace hangar, and finally, they let go of Tarkin's mind, which at this point left him in a weird state of insanity that he may never recover from.
Lol.
And the Jedi felt only a little bit bad about it, as they moved through the former temple halls, avoiding stormtrooper patrols and Imperial loyalists walking around, and they finally reached the office of the Emperor.
Okay.
Together, they entered, and Palpatine looked up with a wicked smile. He told the Jedi he's been expecting them,
Oh, really?
as he felt Skywalker wake up in the Force some time ago. Palpatine stood, looked out of the window, telling Anakin that all of this would have been his.
Oh, this is
and
great,
he
because obviously Palpatine was powerful as fucking Revenge of the Sith. Now he's even more powerful, so...
never gone missing.
And Maul.
And Anakin ignited
Maul
his
exists.
lightsaber, telling Palpatine he would never join the dark side. Palpatine, unbothered, told Anakin he was being naive. He had all of it planned in his head, but he adjusted, like he always does. And now Palpatine ignited his own blade, saying he will now get rid of these final loose ends that threaten his empire. And the door opened up behind the two Jedi. In walked Darth Maul, igniting both of his blades.
Wow.
As he told Kenobi he will happily kill him like he did Ahsoka.
Yeah, you won't kill him.
And now Skywalker and Kenobi stood back to back, ready to face the Sith once and for all. And Anakin would lunge at Sidious with a reborn ferocity. His blue blade was crackling against Sidious's red saber. The strikes came in rapid movements, and for every single blow that Anakin dealt, Sidious responded with a dark, unpredictable counter, his own speed as reflexes more than matching Anakin's. And meanwhile, Obi-Wan met Maul's sudden relentless attacks, shifting seamlessly from one defensive maneuver to the next. Maul's rage drove him forward, his double-bladed lightsaber spinning in furious arcs that forced Obi-Wan back in a careful, fluid rhythm. He was blocking,
Obi-Wan's got this.
trying to stay balanced, knowing Maul wanted to goad him into the dark side. And on the other side, Sidious was growing faster, slipping past Anakin's defenses and forcing him to step back inch by inch. Anakin was gritting his teeth, throwing all of his might into each swing, but Sidious was just too strong. The Sith Lord's strikes hit with pure dark strength, his saber clashing against Anakin's with a true intensity that jarred his bones, and with each block, Anakin could feel his balance slipping, the weight of Sidious's power pressing down on him. And after a brutal swing, Anakin faltered, his shoulder dropping, exposing his side. Sidious took advantage, landing a forceful blow with lightning that sent Anakin sprawling backwards, breathless, reeling from the impact. He struggled to his feet, and Sidious paced around, admiring his power, ready to finish this. But Obi-Wan, sensing Maul's aggression growing reckless, leaned into the Jedi discipline that he'd mastered. Maul's strikes were a flurry of overextended swings, his anger making him careless, and Obi-Wan met each attack, grounding himself in the Force, moving with a calm, disciplined control that contrasted Maul's wild ferocity. Maul lunged, leaving himself vulnerable, and Obi-Wan took the opening, twisted his saber in a clean swing that slashed across Maul's exposed chest, and Maul collapsed, ending the rivalry that spanned much longer than anyone could have expected. And with Maul gone, Obi-Wan turned to where Sidious was now bearing down on Anakin, firing lightning to engulf the boy. But Obi-Wan leapt forward, blocked it, and Sidious snarled. Anakin reignited his blade. Sidious was now facing the two Jedi together, and they were working in tandem. Anakin and Obi-Wan moved forward, pushing the lightning back at the Sith Lord.
Come on,
Sidious
man.
was hit by it. Then he pulled out his blade once more, trying to recover, as the two Jedi forced Sidious back, each strike driving him more towards a corner. Sidious's confident smile was gone, as the light poured through each movement of Anakin and Obi-Wan, until they found their opening, killing the Sith Lord.
Yes!
With the Sith dead,
Let's go.
the two Jedi would escape before reinforcements could arrive, and they had a plan to officially destroy the Empire once and for all. In the coming weeks, then months, the two Jedi would reunite with the clone armies, after fighting Rex, Echo, and the Bad Batch.
Oh, shit.
The Jedi would lead the clone rebellion once more, against the Empire that was now scrambling without their leaders.
How many clones?
It was a rejuvenated clone war, but this time, the clones and Jedi were fighting for a cause that they truly understood. Freedom from oppressive rule, and they had the people on their side. The second clone war would last roughly 6 months, with Obi-Wan, Anakin, Padme, Rex, Cody, thousands of clones rising up to fight back, until a new republic could be restored, under the trio of Padme, Bail Organa, and Mon Mothma, thanks to the Jedi and the clones. It would be a day long remembered by the galaxy, as the Empire was sent away from the galaxy, and within a few short years, Anakin and Padme were looking over their daughter, Tano, who reignited more hope for the freed galaxy, as Skywalker and Kenobi continued to lead the Jedi in their new path. And folks, that is where our story ends today. Hope you guys enjoyed this one.
Wow! Oh my god! You know what? 9 out of 10 for the story immediately, bro. 9 out of 10. Like, awesome story, dude. Like, oh wow. This is just so unique. Because it's actually such a realistic way to have Anakin Skywalker, like, kind of get transported into the time of the Empire. Interesting how he made Yoda and Ahsoka die and all that. Like, just great what if. I love it. As always, this guy just is so good at writing what ifs. So 9 out of 10 for this what if. Let me know what you guys will rate this what if in the comments section down below. If you agree with my 9 out of 10 rating or if you don't, and why.
Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this reaction, make sure to go subscribe to the Star Wars Galaxy for more awesome what if content. And do not forget to subscribe to my channel, leave a like, and turn on those notifications so you never miss an upload. Remember, a new Star Wars what if reaction drops every single day. join our Discord server, links in the description, and if you want to support the channel and get exclusive perks, consider joining our Patreon. Huge thanks to all of our amazing Patreons for your support. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this video, so drop a comment with feedback or let me know which wave I should react to next. Thanks again for watching. This is Dwayne, may the force be with you, and then I will see you next time.
Hey, you didn't watch it? Well, check out the video on the left side of the screen, which is specifically recommended for you, or check out the playlist on the right of the screen, which contains similar videos to this one, made by me, of course. Hey, remember, subscribe.